Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan of the Chart Guys here with Chart Gal Lori, who members are certainly aware of who she is, but for those YouTubers out there who might not know, Lori is a former member of ours who years ago joined the Chart Guys to help her trading game learn technical analysis and very quickly rose through the ranks as she showed her drive and dedication and ability to grasp the concepts. And so now she is heading up our weekly swing report and helping out around the chat room, doing some live streams, and certainly an integral part of the Chart Guys team at this point. So thanks for joining me today, Lori.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to do a little bit of a discussion as we're heading towards the election. We certainly know there's a lot of volatility coming in the market, a lot of opportunity, and a lot of risk. So we want to talk a little bit and do a little Q&A on the swing report and how we can utilize this information to better our trading as we head towards the election less than a month away. So heading right into it, I personally have a bit of expertise focusing on the marijuana stock sector over the last decade. And that's one of the sectors that's going to be impacted by this election coming up. And there's a whole bunch of them that we're going to be looking towards, whether it's biotech sector and healthcare prices, whether it's the solar sector and alternative energy. So my experience doesn't really go towards some of those other sectors, and that's where having a team as traders is so important. So Lori, in your previous business life before you became a trader, you had a bit more exposure in a different sector. If you want to tell us a bit about your history.
Sure. So I worked in healthcare for over 15 years, cough, cough. And in healthcare, I worked with companies like United Healthcare, and I was a competitor to Anthem. So I'm very familiar with the healthcare sector and how that may come into play with the elections coming up. For United Healthcare, for example, there's lots of speculation that the Democrats don't want to support healthcare and that the Republicans want to remove money from healthcare or whatever it may be. So I have experience in anticipating demand and mitigating risk in business. And mitigating risk would be XLU, XLE, the sectors that have dividends associated with them. And then anticipating demand would be, will healthcare be in favor depending on who looks like they're going to win or who wins? Is there an opportunity there? And then just positioning the swing report to capitalize on those opportunities.
Awesome. So getting right into my first question, I guess it's my second question. What have you learned from creating the swing report over the last 6 months?
Market efficiency, I would have to say that would definitely be the two words that come to mind. The actual just pricing in of the things that we may not know, but the market is really efficient in pricing in a Biden win, a Trump win, or a stimulus package or lack thereof, or pandemic vaccines, just overall market efficiency, and just seeing the overlay of all the sectors and how they work. And they're just so congruent, I guess is the right word, just the way the market's efficient in pricing in things that we don't have to guess as much. We just move and flow with the market, and kind of like a stream. We don't try to swim upstream. We try to just go with the flow. And I guess that's what I've learned most about the market.
Awesome. So with the swing report, what kind of chart setups are we looking at as far as ideal candidates for getting included?
We want charts that have the least amount of weekly trauma overhead or monthly trauma overhead. We want charts that don't have to fight through all that baggage. We want weekly bull flags. And my personal favorite are the ones that have the consolidating range. We have price that is trying to figure out the flow and it's going sideways and it gets so tight. I like to call it the Instapot effect, where we have the pressure that's building, and when the longer in place, the higher in space. So that's my favorite type of trade setup, and I gravitate toward those and those with very high short floats.
So just to clarify a little bit, you say baggage overhead. Are you referring to previous price levels as far as overhead resistance goes, and ideally blue sky, but lack of resistance ahead?
Absolutely. So they say don't date anyone with a psych chart greater than 1 inch. That's the same thing for a chart. You don't want to date a chart that has a psych chart of, say, 12 inches overhead. We don't want all of the bag holders overhead. So I actually do scans for names within 10% of their all-time high. So we don't have to navigate through all of those bag holders and the trauma.
Awesome. So as a day trader, I am always looking at rotation on a day-to-day basis, even on a 5 to hourly basis, 5 minute. So when we're looking at rotation going on, we're essentially trying to focus on where is the money flow going? Is money leaving the market? Is money rotating out of tech going into the financial sector? Where is it going? So my question is, how does the swing report leverage the sector or the relative rotation graph as far as creating an edge for traders?
Can I show you one?
Yes, let's get into it.
All right. So here's a relative rotation graph, and this is the standard tail length, which is 5 weeks. And this just shows 4 quadrants. We have leading, weakening, lagging, and improving. And this just shows the flow of money. And because this is 5 weeks, it's actually a week delayed. So this is ending October 5th. So this is actually 6 weeks old. But overall, if you want to just envision each blue line as a train that you're trying to push up on the tracks, once it gets on the tracks, it's hard to pull it down because we have all of this history. Now, if you and I are day trading QQQ and XLF and it's 5 or 15 minutes, that's pretty quick. We can rotate pretty quickly. This money flow is a lot more rhythmic and a little bit slower, and we can anticipate. I actually focus on the weakening when I'm looking 2 to 3 months ahead. When I'm looking in the next month or two, I'm looking at the lagging and improving quadrant. We don't want to find names that are at the far right corner of the leading quadrant. Remember, this goes clockwise. So we don't want to find names that are pulling into the weakening quadrant. And we use this and we sort here, we can see the leaders, and then we can quickly identify, just picking one real quick, we mentioned XLU. So looking at XLU and the 10 leaders of, or 10 to 12 leaders of XLU, and we can kind of see, okay, who's improving. We've had a great winner in EE, and it is in the weakening sector now, or quadrant, but we picked it when it was over here in the improving quadrant. So just overall watching how the stocks move and where the big money's going, basically.
And that's why it takes, as you said, it takes a little bit longer to play out, because we're talking massive amounts of capital. We're not talking money that can just go in and out on the 5-minute time frame.
This isn't Nancy, Susie, Johnny money. This is big money.
I love that visual, because when I'm talking correlations, the example that I give is talking about currents in a river and swirling around, and that's the perfect visual of showing that tail and showing where the direction it's headed. So I love that visual that's included in the swing report. So do you have to be a full-time trader to utilize the swing report here? How much screen time are we talking?
It's as much screen time as you want to put into it. I like to call myself a chartographer, kind of like a cartographer, like we're mapping the chart. So we give you the levels, we map out the charts for you. If you want to do a deep dive into that as to what technical analysis supported those levels, then you can do that. Or if you say, I just want, give me those levels, I'm going to set an alert, a good till cancel ordered with a conditional stop loss that attaches to it, hands off. We have the whole spectrum of traders that are now members of the swing report, and they all find degrees of success based on what they want to use it for. I like to call it the depth finder. If you've ever gone fishing, we're basically putting the depth finder over the fish, and we're showing you where they are. You still have to put the hook in the water. You have to hook it and reel it in. But it's that cross between teaching someone how to fish and handing them the fish. This is the marrying between the two.
What a good analogy. Awesome.
I'm a fisherman girl.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the info, and we're going to do a couple more regular updates like this, checking in on things, because again, this is pretty much prime time month as we head into the election, and it only happens every 4 years. So certainly lots of opportunity for us to stay on top of. I appreciate you answering these questions and giving us a bit more insight, and look forward to our next discussion.
I enjoyed hanging out with you.
Thanks a lot. For anyone looking for more information about the weekly swing report, we've included in the comments of this YouTube video a couple links with previous videos going over in-depth detail, as well as the link to check out a sample report and to sign up. Thanks for your attention.